Can the Padres beat a playoff caliber team on the road in October? That is looking like maybe the most pressing question facing this team now as we enter the final week and a half of the season. I'm sure other pressing questions, as well as some promising trends for the Padres, will come up over the next hour or so with Derek Togerson. I am Darnay Tripp. How does this Thursday afternoon find you, Derek?
Confused, I think, is a good way of putting it. I'm confused. I'm confused why the Padres are playing like this, especially on the road. I'm confused now as I look at this. I'm confused why my laptop is not charging. I'm going to plug this thing in. You want to hit the enter walk-up music while I get this thing figured out?
Without further ado, the walk-up music. It is the On Friar podcast brought to you by NBC7. He is Derek Togerson. His laptop is plugged in and it is charging. I am
good assist to Darnay. Thank you.
My laptop is plugged in and currently charging. Shout out to OGs, the sponsor of the On Fire podcast. Appreciate all they do for us and the NBC7 sports team, the football night team as well. Got a nice little delivery on Sunday. Appreciate that. Keeping the football night crew well fed. And for the football fans out there, come hang out with us after Sunday Night Football every Sunday. It's always a good time. Our focus, of course, is on the Padres and always an exciting time. We are in the home stretch. Everything is kind of coming down to the wire here. Still in the division race. It looks like they're fairly well slotted in terms of the wild card if they are unable to catch the Dodgers. Very interesting series now behind us, Derek, against the Mets that I felt like could maybe be a barometer because it could be pretty similar to what they see in the wild card series. Unfortunately, I don't like the reading of the barometer from the last few days.
No, the barometer is not trending in the proper direction. Listen, at this point, it's like they're just going to basically backdoor their way into the playoffs. It's going to be one of those limp in kind of things. And you know what? Hey, if you get there, you get there. That's great. We've seen plenty of teams flip the proverbial switch at the right time, right? The problem I see is I honestly could not tell you right now if I had to pick two pitchers to start a best of three wild card series, it would be Nick Pivetta and for those of you not watching, we're both hunching our shoulders up like I don't know. It's pull name out of hat. Kyle Hartz. I don't know. I don't know who it would be. So right now it's one of those situations where you're like, all right, you're probably going to have to go into Wrigley Field with Pivetta and somebody else, and you're going to have to rely on your offense for at least one of those games. And that's the scarier part to me because this team can look like it can, put 10 runs up on literally anyone on the planet or be no hit by a rookie in his major league debut. There's just no predicting which one you're going to get. And that's the thing that kind of makes me a little nervous.
Let's just jump right into, or at least get it out of the way, kind of the big question that arose Thursday's series finale against the Mets, the kind of turning point, maybe not kind of turning point of this game, because it relates to the starting pitching situation. And it relates to a guy in Randy Vasquez, who going into this game, back-to-back quality starts. Now they came against the Rockies. One was at Coors Field, but still, that's a promising trend for a guy like Randy Vasquez that is still establishing himself as, a reliable piece in the rotation. They get to make sure I have all the details straight. The third inning, Brandon Nimmo, lefty, coming up to the plate. Excuse me. He had allowed a single to Cedric Mullins, single to Francisco Lindor, got Juan Soto to ground out, walked Pete Alonso. And so you're sitting there with 2 on, 1 out, the lefty Brandon Nimmo coming to the plate. Wandy Peralta was already warming up at this point, and he decides to go with Peralta. Shildt, if I had $1 for every single time I heard him tout Wandy Peralta's ground ball rate, I'd be buying a beach house. So he goes to Wandy Peralta in that situation, gives up a homer, and that essentially ends up being the game. Now, some of the responsibility has to go to the Padres lineup. They score 1 run against a rookie pitcher. You need more, obviously, but we like those big moments, and that was a big moment where Shildt made a decision that he said in the postgame was not a difficult decision for him to make. I feel like that should be a difficult decision for you to make. um, with a pitcher like Randy Vasquez coming off a couple pretty good starts, you're in the third inning, like, and he also said afterwards, like, this game had a playoff type feel. He managed it as though it were like a playoff game where you have that short hook. I just don't feel like he needed to do that in that situation, and obviously things didn't play out the way that he hoped.
Well, Vasquez had thrown 48 pitches.
Yeah.
Like 48 pitches. I think the last couple of starts, again, I don't think anybody's ever going to confuse the Rockies lineup for the Mets lineup, but still, he's coming off 2 really good outings. I think he's earned the ability to have a little more trust in him to get himself out of the mess that he had just put himself into, right? Well, no, by the way, on just Monday nights, Brandon Nimmo grounded into a double play against Michael King, a right-handed pitcher. So you got a guy who is a ground ball threat, a double play threat, and you go to a guy in Wandy Peralta. Yeah, I know he's got a big ground ball rate, but when he elevates the baseball, it leaves the yard. Doesn't matter. And I know Nimmo has, splits where he's not nearly as good against left-handed pitching. I get all of that. But Vasquez, you just told that guy that I don't trust you enough playoff game to leave you out here this long. And I don't disagree or double or second guess Mike Shildt very often. I am disagreeing and second guessing Mike Shildt in a big fat way right now because it didn't warrant taking out your starter in that situation, especially when you've had your bullpen working overtime the last few days.
He said in the post game, this is a quote, "We trust Randy." I couldn't tell by watching that game.
Guess what? Actions speak louder than words. That's a phrase for a reason. You can say anything you want to us. You showed everybody that you do not trust him in a big spot.
I think often in these situations, and there was an example recently, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was the Ryan O'Hearn situation. It feels like Mike Shildt is looking for explanations not to trust the guy, rather than looking for reasons to show belief. Like, what are the reasons why you would leave Randy Vasquez in? Maybe it's his recent trend. Maybe it's the fact that this is what Randy Vasquez does. He gets himself in trouble and he wiggles his way out of it. He's done it this entire season, really his entire time as a Padre. And that's what sometimes bugs me about Mike Shildt is, he expresses so much confidence, good for him. He's got his explanation for why he went to Wandy Peralta locked and loaded and gave like a 2-minute answer. He was ready for reporters. I would love for him to flip it a little bit differently, where he gives us an explanation that shows some belief and trust in Randy Vasquez, rather than going to that Wandy Peralta ground ball rate, which he does all the time. For their careers, Randy Vasquez against lefties is a 37% ground ball rate. It's about 57% for Wandy. So there's a big difference there, but we've heard him say that time and time and time again. Again, you're in the third inning. You've had to use your bullpen the last 2 days. You don't have a day off after this series. Just push it. He's still a young guy. You're going into the postseason. You're going to need him. If he gets out of that, that's a huge boost of confidence for Randy Vasquez when he's going to be facing, I don't know, Milwaukee or Arizona, and then potentially Chicago or whoever else down the line. I think that was such a great example to help build up his confidence, but instead he pulls the Wandy Peralta card and everything goes south.
Well, what I don't get is, if you're talking about trust, why do we still trust Wandy Peralta? Why do you have more confidence and trust in Wandy Peralta than you do in Randy Vasquez at this point in the season? I don't get it. It's the same thing. Look at Wandy Peralta, and I'm on the same vein of Justin Fields. Like, everyone keeps telling me, like, oh yeah, he had one great game against the Steelers where he could prepare literally the entire offseason, and then the next game he goes back to being. What has he shown you throughout his career that makes you think he's going to be a reliable starting quarterback? What has Wandy Peralta shown you in his time with the Padres that makes you think he's going to be a reliable, every day, every time out type of relief pitcher? He's not. Yeah, maybe, but I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes. The eye test says no. So what am I missing? Is it me?
I don't think it's you. I mean, he's got a 3.33 ERA. I mean, we've seen things go south with Wandy Peralta. I think with Wandy Peralta, probably in fairness to him, we probably notice the blowups more than we notice and remember just kind of the steady stream of, reliable performances. He's not Mason Miller out there. He's not in a closing situation like Robert Suarez. He's not part of that core all-star group of relievers. And so he kind of just goes about his business. He'd given up 1 run in 3 1/3 innings. This month leading up to that, gave up those 3 runs against the Twins, a couple against the Twins before that. So, but I think you're right. And people don't necessarily look at Wandy Peralta and feel like, okay, all the confidence in the world. I feel like this is going to be a lockdown inning. I also feel like there's maybe a larger conversation to be had about the confidence that Mike Shildt speaks with versus the confidence that he displays in his players in crunch time. Now, there are some exceptions. I think Luis Arraez still hitting second is one of those exceptions. The confidence he shows in Wandy Peralta. But he's quick to say pinch hit for a Freddie Fermin, who's done a lot of good things. And, do I trust, what's his name, Warren, more than I trust Freddie Fermin in the 9-hole and some of the guys that they've had to, throw out there. We talked about the Bryce Johnson, Ryan O'Hearn situation a week or two ago. He's quick to kind of pinch hit for guys where I'm like, I don't know, is this really an upgrade? Trenton Brooks for Martin Maldonado or Elias Diaz. And then certainly with the pitching situation, this being a prime example, pulling guys with 2 innings. He does it all the time. I don't know if, and maybe part of Mike Shildt likes to be thought of as this like baseball genius, like he came up under managers, you know what I mean? And so maybe he's trying to prove himself as like he is a game manager, like he plays chess. I don't know. It doesn't often. Last year he did have a great touch with it. This year it hasn't necessarily been there. And part of me wishes he displayed the same confidence with his guys in the heat of the moment that he does when he's explaining his decisions before or after the game.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail right on the head with this. It's like his decisions tell you what he feels about stuff. A lot of times his decisions do not match what he tells us in the post-game press conference. And again, we've talked about it on this very podcast, aren't I? He's going to tell us what he knows. When he's speaking to us, he's speaking to his clubhouse. Because he knows it's going to get back there. Guys are going to hear what he's saying about stuff. So he's not talking to us. He's talking to his players through us. So he's projecting this. Hey, we trust Randy. We trust Wandy. We believe me, all is well. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. That's what he's doing because he knows that those guys are going to hear whether or not he hangs them out in the public. So that's what he has to tell us. And he's very good at telling us things that he wants us to hear because he wants his players to hear what he is saying and disseminating publicly. I very much doubt that he believes some of the stuff that he's actually telling us. He has to say it to unless he wants to at some point light a fire under a guy, which I don't know if he's ever done before or not. I've never heard it. He's not going to do that. He's going to tell us what he wants his players to hear. And that's all we're going to get from him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was credit to Chris Ello. I was listening to them coming in and he said something along the lines of like, if they didn't pull Randy and Randy gave up the homer, like, would we even be talking about it? Like, I don't think the conversation would be, why didn't he go to Wandy Peralta in that spot? I think the conversation would be, maybe we can't trust Randy Vasquez in October. And I often like to think about like these types, if it's a situation, if it's a call that a ref makes, the controversial call, like what would the reaction be in the reverse? And a football example comes to mind that I think you'll appreciate. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, Tom Brady and the Bucks, playoff game, down 8, final couple minutes or so, and Matt LaFleur kicks the field goal instead of going for it on 4th down, having to go for 2 with a Hall of Fame quarterback. They give it to a Hall of Fame quarterback. Packers don't get the ball back. They're eliminated. Buccaneers move on. It's one of those situations where, like, in the reverse, if they had gone for it on 4th down, would anybody have been like, they should have kicked the field goal? What an idiot. Why didn't they kick the field goal? Probably not. And I think this is one of those situations where if he leaves Vasquez in, there's nobody throwing in the bullpen. He gives up the homer. I don't think anybody's like, Mike Shildt, what are you doing?
No, exactly. And it's one of those where it's like, and by the way, the guy who trolled Aaron Rodgers and he was hosting Jeopardy about that was absolutely brilliant. But you got to look at it and go, the final Jeopardy answer was the guy didn't know what the question was. So he said, whose decision was it to kick the field goal? Was his final Jeopardy question. I was like, this, well done.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, you can see Aaron, it hurt him. It hurt him. And that might have been the beginning of the transformation of Aaron Rodgers' personality. I don't know. But it's one of those where you're like, you can't give the ball to Tom Brady. I would rather lose with my guys on the field than win and then lose by playing it safe and giving it to a guy who you know has the ability to go down the field against us, right? Yeah. You have to leave all of you cannot leave any doubt when you got a guy like that standing on the sideline trying to come get you. So that's what I see with Mike Shildt is sometimes he's doing too much of the left-right split thing, like with the Wagner for Fermin. He's almost managing like too technically. And not with his gut right now, like he's going with, this is what the numbers say. I'm just going to go do that instead of going, you know what? I got a hunch about this. Let's go ahead and do that. So he's not managing intuitively, which is what we need to see. The best managers manage intuitively. In fact, I will go to my grave saying it turned around for the Dodgers and Dave Roberts when Andrew Friedman stopped telling him, go by what the sheet says. Go by what your gut says more. You use this as a tool, use this information, but say, you know what? I don't feel it. I feel his fastball is a tick better today. I'm going to leave him in there when I probably should take him out. And that's when the Dodgers turned the corner and won the World Series in 20 and won the World Series last year. Mike Shildt needs to do a little bit more of that, where it's going with your gut a little bit more than right now, at least, than what you think is going to look at, because this is what the numbers say.
Yeah, I think that's a great explanation. This is how much the Padres are driving our buddy Chip Rock's nuts. They're making me want to do the one thing I thought was impossible: watch the Chargers in their place. You might be.
I don't know if I'm there.
Yeah, I don't think I'm there.
The good news is this Sunday the Padres are on early. You can go right into watching the Chargers. In fact, I'll be up at SoFi for the Charger Bronco game. So go Bo Nix.
There you go. Larger part of the equation, lose to the Mets, drop another series against a team currently in playoff position. They have won one series this season against a team currently in playoff position. You know what series that was? On the road.
Right?
One series on the road against a team currently in playoff position. I think you've mentioned this one recently.
On the road, team in playoff position. Who would actually, like one of the 6 teams that has a playoff spot right now?
Currently, this was before
they Diamondbacks and Giants don't count.
No, yes, correct. They do not count.
It's not the Mariners. It's not the Dodgers.
No.
It's not the Mets. It's not the Cubs. Drop 2 or 3 to them. It's the Brewers.
It's
early in the year.
And it was before the Brewers became like a wagon, and they've since cooled off. So you got them earlier in the year. Now, if my math is correct, 10-25 against those teams with one series win. Current playoff teams on the road. They are looking like they're going to have to face a current playoff team on the road in 2 weeks at Wrigleyville. So it lends some concern because this would be going against essentially a season-long trend. Doesn't mean they can't do it. It's a 3-game series. I looked out of curiosity back in 2022, and their record was more favorable. I want to say it was like 10-16 or 18 or something like that. Had a losing record, wasn't quite as lopsided in these types of series. They, of course, go and beat the Mets in 3. Certainly have the capability, but again, it's, what are they showing us? What have they shown us all season? They haven't demonstrated the ability to do that, which gives you a fair amount of concern.
Yeah, but again, then we go back to this team is really good. It's really talented. It's like it's got the ability to do this. So I don't know. Maybe it's one of those like 2012 New York Giants where they, kind of sneak in and get the number 6 seed, and then the defense catches fire and they roll to a Super Bowl. Or the Packers in 2010 did the same thing, got in on the last day of the year and then went and rolled and won the Super Bowl. It's the Diamondbacks a couple of years ago being the 6th seed and all catching fire and going to the World Series. I just don't know. We don't know. Now, am I confident in that? No. Is it one of those things where you can start, writing it off and this is going to be a quick 2-game playoff appearance? I also can't say that.
Yeah. 619 Cam, anything can happen in the playoffs, but I'm confident playing in Wrigley against a slugging team unless we do more than bunting. We know they can do that well.
They bunt with the best of them.
That set up the Manny grand slam last night. So, it does work sometimes. And if they're in that situation, we know they've got guys that can execute. The problem is doing everything else. They just haven't shown the ability. And I think, there is that one glaring issue that you mentioned off the top, because I do agree with you. Like, yes, you look at what they have on the page and you feel like this is a team that can win a couple series. But it's just that starting pitching has become even more of a glaring question mark outside of Nick Pivetta. And obviously you need that to win. And I mean, even now it's like, who's your game 3 starter? Like,
yeah. What Nick Pivetta was a guy they signed after spring training started to be their number 4 starting pitcher. Now, he has performed extremely well this year, so we don't take anything away from that. You could argue he could have been an all-star. He's probably going to get Cy Young Award votes, down ballot Cy Young Award votes. But the fact that he is your no-brainer absolutely set him up to start game 1 of the wild card series guy because he's been so much better than everyone else, that's not how this was supposed to go. And again, it's injury, Darvish and King, and it's ineffectiveness in Cease and pretty much everyone else. Inconsistency. You just don't know. And by the way, I'm looking, given his performance in history in the playoffs and in major games, I'm looking for any excuse I can find to leave Dylan Cease off the wild card roster. That's one dude talking about Wandy Peralta, not trusting him. I don't trust Dylan Cease in a big game right now. I've seen it's been too many times. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 6 times, shame on me. I don't want him out there on the mound in a big game. He's not shown the ability to handle that from a mental standpoint.
I wish I could say I vehemently disagree with you. I mean, they're gonna have to. I don't think they have any choice but to start him. But yeah, I think everybody feels that same trepidation when it comes to Dylan Cease in a big game like that, because he just hasn't shown it to you. And that was even coming off last year where he was like pretty decent at times last year through a no-hitter. Obviously, I don't think his numbers were as good as he would like them to be, but did enough to feel like you had to have some confidence with him out there in the playoffs. This year's not been the case, and then there are those big game worries on top of that.
But I think in 2022, right? Game 1 against the Mets, feel good about Darvish. Awesome. They get that win. Game 2, here comes Blake Snell. And you're like, I don't know which version of this guy we're going to get. The stuff says he should be fantastic. You never know if he's going to show up. Bam, he doesn't show up. They lose game 2. But then in game 3, here comes Joe Musgrove. You're like, yeah, I feel we got game 3. Big game, Joe. We're done. Leave his ears alone. I feel great about Musgrove in game 3. So that's kind of what you're hoping. If Michael King in his final 2 starts can find what Michael King was at the beginning of this year and in the playoffs last year, then what you're hoping for is you got Pivetta in game 1. You're like, all right, feel good about this. You could throw Cease in game 2, hoping you get a win in game 1, and I can have that swing. And like, we're not eliminated if we start this one. So let's see if Dylan can get us one, because I feel damn good about Michael King going in game 3. That's kind of what you're hoping for with the Padres rotation right now. You got Pivetta you feel great with. Get that win and then go, oh, man, Dylan, all right, let's see if good Dylan shows up. And if not, you got game 3 with a guy like Michael King who's rounded into form already. That's what you're hoping for in the playoffs. And if that's what you're hoping for, man, it's like, oh, how did we get to this point?
Chip Rocks, at this rate, JP Sears is your game 1 starter. It sounds like what you're saying to me is they need Joe Musgrove to come back to pitch game 3 of the wild card series. Anybody
You
ask
know what,
Joe how
dude?
his
Jay,
arm is
right? I
doing?
would take right now, and I'm not joking about this. I know it's going to sound hyperbolic, and
It's
I know
gonna sound
far be it for
hyperbolic.
me to say outlandish things, but I mean this with absolute sincerity. I would take Joe Musgrove right now over Dylan Cease in the playoffs. He can only throw fastballs. If he only threw fastballs, because he would locate that fastball and he would give you everything he has.
He
And
would.
I'll tell you what, if Dylan Cease attacked hitters and pitched the same way that Joe Musgrove does, Dylan Cease would be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Because what he's lacking is the attacking approach. Like when he threw that no hitter, he was after guys. He was going after everybody. He was like, I don't care who you are. This is it. I'm coming after you. What we've seen from Dylan Cease this year is like he's just kind of like, oh, my stuff is so good. I'm just going to wait for guys to get themselves out. Joe attacks everyone at all times. If Dylan Cease would just do that with his ungodly stuff, he would be one of the greatest pitchers in history. But he doesn't do that. And it fries me every time I see it. Or if Joe Musgrove had Dylan Cease's stuff, they'd be making a statue of him right now.
Are the top three pitchers in the postseason Pavetta, King, Darvish? I still like Darvish for his postseason experience over the other options, unless they do a starting pitcher bullpen combo like Darvish and then Cease out of the pen. Darvish last 2 starts, 5 innings, 3 earned runs. I mean, that's not going to be a disaster in the playoffs. The question then becomes, can the Padres score 4 runs on the road?
Yeah, precisely. And by the way, Yu Darvish has a lot of experience pitching at Wrigley Field. That's another thing to take into consideration here. He was with the Cubs. He knows that ballpark extremely well. So if anybody has experience in that place, especially when the weather can get a little, wacky in late September, early October in Wrigley, Darvish is a guy who has been there, done that, and knows how to handle it. So yeah, I would take Yu Darvish right now over Dylan Cease in the start as well. I'm not saying leave. I mean, here's the thing. If you don't have Cease as one of your scheduled 3 starters, he's not on the wild card roster because you're not bringing him out of the bullpen. He's never done that. You can't put him on the roster if he's not going to be one of your top 3 starters, right? Like you need guys who can be bullpen options.
One thing, had Saris on a couple weeks ago, and one thing he said in terms of like Mike Shildt getting more innovative and trying different things, he was like, have an opener for Dylan Cease. And it might be too late in the season he's going to have another start. Is it, I don't know if it's with Randy, was it like a David Morgan type? Like who would you probably, would you want a lefty? Yeah. How much does that really matter? I guess it kind of depends on the lineups, but do you have somebody that comes in and is there to pitch an inning or 2, and then Dylan Cease you hope can follow with 5 innings, get you to the 7th, and then hand it over to the bullpen? Are you going to try this with 9 games left in the season? Maybe not, but how do you feel about that option in a game 2 of a wild card series? Certainly not ideal, but at this point, like, is that going to hurt you?
I wouldn't want to try it for the first time in a playoff game.
Sure.
I like the idea, but I'd say he's supposed to start on Friday in Chicago against the White Sox. If you're going to do it in one of these 2 starts. See how he handles it, if he can do it, because it's not starting and coming out of the bullpen is it mentally it's very different. It's very different because when first pitch is going to happen, right? Even if you're on the road, you have a pretty good idea when first pitch is going to happen, unless you have like a 25-minute first inning because your offense goes out there and just, obliterates the other starting pitcher. You have a pretty good idea when you're going out there. If you're coming in the 3rd inning, you don't know when to start warming up. And starting pitchers are obscene creatures of habit for the most part. So I'd like to see maybe it jostles him out of his routine or comfort zone or what. I'd love to see them try it. See, maybe you can unlock Dylan Cease that way. I am all for that. There's an old saying about going into battle with an untested weapon. I'm not sure I would want to see that happen in a playoff game, especially a game 2 if you happen to lose game 1.
Yeah. Yeah, no, especially in that situation. But that even makes, like, you mentioned having King for game 3, like, in the event that they lose a Pavetta start game 1, I don't know if there is
the King moves up to game 2. Yeah. Because at that point you're hoping that you're not having to try and go all the way to the wire to clinch. You can start thinking about lining up your rotation, and hopefully you're going to have a guy who Michael King is not having to start on a Friday, so he can be there and be ready to go. So you can say, all right, Michael, we know if we win game 1, you're not going to game 3 or hopefully game 1 of the division series. Or but he knows that. But if we lose game 1, you're our guy in game 2. Like you can prepare the guys that way, knowing what the plan is, because you can get a few bullpen games. You can give JP Sears a couple of starts. You can do Randy Vasquez, whatever. Maybe you can do some things in the last week of the season to line those guys up like that. So that's what would be the best way to go about it, is have 2 or 3 options in game 2 and in game 3, and those guys all know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, the tricky thing, and Dodgers host the Giants tonight. The tricky thing is, in previous years, if the Padres are in this spot in the wild card, they're like, okay, it looks like they're in. We feel pretty confident about that, and the Dodgers are 15 games ahead, and so we're not going to catch them in division. You still have that little carrot dangling in front of you, where now 2.5 back could be 2 or 3 by the end of the night. It's still there, and this team has seldom had opportunities to win the division. You obviously need, a considerable amount of help. You're 2.5 back, really 3.5 back because of the tiebreaker. But at what point are they willing to start planning for that wild card series rather than winning the game that they're in with the outside chance of stealing a division from the Dodgers?
That's a very good question, because it also comes with hosting the wild card. And probably dealing with the Mets at home, and you swept the Mets at Petco Park earlier this year and took 4 out of 6 against them. So I don't know. That's one thing that I think I kind of wrote off, especially with the news today that Clayton Kershaw is retiring after the season. So I think that's going to light a little fire under the rest of the Dodgers. I doubt they come back to the pack, because again, if they beat the Giants tonight, then with 9 games left, it will be a basically 4-game lead, and that would take a massive collapse by the Dodgers to not give them the division. And the Padres have squandered multiple opportunities to catch them sooner than this. So I think at this point, it's kind of the writing's just kind of on the wall. But you're right. If it's a 1-game lead going into the final series of the year, that's such a tough line to walk, because you don't want to ruin your chances of winning what you know is going to be a wild card series by going after a division and the Dodgers sweep whoever they're playing, and you can't catch them anyway, and now you've blown your best opportunity to win that series. But you also don't want to write off your chance to win the division. So at that point, what's more important? Now we're going to get into deep philosophical discussions. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I would probably err on the side of work with what you know you have in hand, which is, I know I've got a wild card series. I know I'm playing Tuesday, Wednesday, and potentially Thursday. I want to have, if it's here or if it's in Chicago, no matter where it is, no matter who we're playing, I want to have the best version of my team ready to go for those 2 to 3 games. That's where I would err. What say you?
Is there a right or wrong answer in this? I don't know. I think I probably go the other direction, because then, like, what if you pitch JP Sears and have a bullpen game, say that last Sunday, and the Dodgers bullpen gives up 9 runs like they did the other night, and
which is not entirely possible, by the way.
And you feel like, well, we essentially punted on these 2 games. They lost, and there was our opportunity. That's a hypothetical. I think my main point being, and I think this is kind of where my mind has been the last month or so, is you never have a chance to win the division. Go win the division. And I think what you said about it coming with home gives there a little more oomph to that, because it's not just, hey, we get to, fly the banner or whatever. It comes with something that's going to help you, directly in the postseason. I understand how that could potentially set you back or put you in a tougher spot 2 days later when the wild card series starts. But I'm like, you never, and I don't, did we expect them to be in the spot before the season? There's some projections that had them finishing 4th in the division behind Giants and the D-backs.
Yeah, those
And
people are stupid.
and the Dodgers have not had the overwhelming season that a lot of people expected going into this year. And the Padres have had another really, good campaign. I would just go for it, man. You never get a chance to do this. I would want to at least go out swinging. And if the Dodgers handle business, you'd probably know by, Saturday, whether or not if it was a real opportunity, and you could always, rein things back a little bit for Sunday, give some guys a day off or what have you. But I'd say up until that point, go try and win a division.
I can't argue with that. I can't. Also, it gets you in the mindset of playing competitive baseball, the most highest possible competitive baseball, moving into the playoffs. Like there's also something to be said for that. So
yeah.
I don't know, dude. There's no right and there's no wrong answer here. There really isn't. I wish they had 6 capable starting pitchers like the Dodgers do. That'd be because you don't have to worry about it. And you can just throw whoever's next, just throw them out there. We're good. Let's go.
What are your feelings on Michael King after what we saw on Tuesday?
Everything looks good except the location. He's not commanding the fastball. He is a guy who commands his pitches in the strike zone. If he gets you to chase at something, it's because everyone thinks the ball is going to be in the strike zone because he's consistently in it. And when he was missing, giving up those 4 home runs, he was not locating. Those pitches got way too much of the plate. So he just needs to figure out, get back into honing his ability to locate his fastball. Because if he can do that, he's Michael King. Like the velocity looks good, the movement looks good, everything looks good. He's just not putting it where he needs to put it. So when he starts doing that again, he'll be fine. He still looks like Michael King.
Which is more promising than the velo being down a couple ticks and the pitch shape being off,
Yeah, exactly. Because then you're talking about, okay, something's really off mechanically or he's hurt. That's when the other metrics, when the spin rate is good, when the velocity is good, all that stuff is fine. He's meeting his metrics. Then it's just he's holding on to it too long. He's not holding on to it long enough. His grips may be a little off. Maybe he's shorting his stride a little bit. That can be fixed. If there's something else that is he's doing 91 instead of 95, and you really don't know why. Now you're going, okay, now we've got a much bigger issue here.
Yeah. And, if he goes out and in his next start pitches 5 innings, gives up 2 or 3 runs, it's not bombs away. It's not bombs away like it was against the Mets. You feel like, okay, this is progress. He is ramping up. That was his 2nd start since the knee. That's his 3rd start since May 18th. He's having to rehab on the job because they don't have any other options. And I think he would rather, rehab on the job than be down in El Paso or Lake Elsinore or wherever right now. So that's the situation you're in. But, we've seen it before where a guy looks a little bit lost and then he finds his command or whatever that trigger is, and he's back to looking like himself. And if he doesn't necessarily have to be Michael King against the Braves game 1 of last year's wild card series, that would sure be nice. But can he get 6-3, 5-2, like that at least gives the Padres an opportunity.
Yeah, but I take that back. His next start, he's going to go on Sunday on the south side against the White Sox. And then he would then go again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So then he would go, if you're staying on regular days rest and not by games played, he would go Friday against the Diamondbacks, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That would put him in line to pitch game 2 of the wild card series if you're staying on regular rest.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. You like the outlandish hypotheticals. Any realistic chance the Padres can start to ramp up Mason Miller to be a 3 to 4 inning starter in the postseason? Of course, that leaves a hole in the bullpen.
Okay, believe it or not, I actually thought about that.
And I believe it. I do believe it.
6-1 can, 1-9 can. That's a brilliant. I wasn't going to bring it up here because it's like I had that kind of fleeting thought in the back of my head where I'm like, you can't miss it. If Jason Adam was still around, I'd be like, let's do this. Come on, here we go. You're going to make him a starter next year anyway. Start to ramp him up now. Let's go. It does leave a hole in the bullpen. However, if you look at it as, well, Mason Miller's either going to throw 4 outs over the 7th and 8th innings, or he can get you 12 outs through the first 4 innings. I'll take the 12 outs. I want my best arms getting the most possible outs. So I really do like that idea a lot. It was just last year he was a starting pitcher. He started, and then he had a little elbow issue. They had to rest him, and they're like, we can't leave 103 sitting here. Just put him in the bullpen. Get him, make him a closer. Let's go. Get him on the mound. Get him some big league experience, and that's going to become one of the best closers in baseball. But he started the year as a starting pitcher. In fact, I think his second or third start, he took a no-hitter into like the 6th inning or something like that. So he's done it. He understands how to do it. He's got a lot of experience, a starter all through college. So I could absolutely see them doing that. And I would take that over Dylan Cease right now. Like if you're going to do a bullpen game, like the Dodgers had so much success with last year, there's your opener. Mason Miller, 3 innings, 4 innings, bullpen game. There's your opener for your bullpen game. I like that idea a lot, because if the next guy coming in after him is Adrian Morejon, they're going to be ramped up for that, wicked slider and 150 mile an hour fastball from the right side. Well, now here comes Morejon to give you 2 innings that looks completely different. And now you're cooking, because that gives you basically 5-6 innings of, we don't know what we're really getting here from the opposing offense. That gives you a long time to try and get your offense to get a little bit of a lead, and then you can maybe open up some other bullpen options. I like that idea probably more than I should.
Speaking of bullpen options, a couple guys to mention, especially as it relates to, really tinkering and going with an opener or this or that, piggybacking. Kyle Hart now in the bullpen role has done some good things now.
Yeah.
And just looking at his numbers for the month, after Tuesday, did he pitch again? He did pitch again today.
He did throw today, yes.
Yeah.
He was good.
Yeah, today another clean inning, couple strikeouts. So that is 7 1/3. It was a 2.84 ERA this month going into the day. So there's an option there, and a guy that could give you start of the season as a starter. Could give you some flexibility if you're having to do some tinkering. Yeah, month of September, 2.45 ERA, 7 1/3 innings, 13 strikeouts, an 0.55 WHIP. Hitters hitting 120 off of him.
Yep, he had that one blow up game against the Twins. 3 weeks ago, something like that. Mm-hmm. And since then, he's actually been really good.
Yeah.
Leading up to that, he was really good. Like, since he was up in July, he pitched a few games. Remember, they made that start against the Rangers, where that relief appearance against the Rangers, where he went 3+ innings, something like that, struck out a bunch, didn't give up a hit. He was really, really good. So he's showing maybe he's more comfortable in a bullpen role, and which he kind of was forced into when Jason Adam went down. If I would, as we talk, kind of go back to Wandy Peralta, I would much rather have Kyle Hart getting those left-handed outings over Wandy Peralta right now. He's a better relief option.
Yeah. On the other side of things, Jeremiah Estrada, last 12 games, a 9.90 ERA.
Yeah.
And his issues seem to be specific to the Dodgers for a little while, and this kind of downturn started. Gave up a run in 2/3 of an inning in their 5-1 win against the Dodgers, and that 8-2 loss. Gave up a homer, 4 earned runs, had a few 4 clean appearances, gave up homer, 4 runs against the Rockies. Has just been kind of not as consistent. And then, that continued. What was it? Yesterday, I want to say, giving up a homer late against the Mets. And so that, that's something that we'll have to pay some attention to, because You talk about the bullpen. They're going to be using the bullpen. Today was a playoff type game.
Yeah.
Mike Shildt managed it as such. And so those guys are going to, their arms are going to get a whole lot of use, including Jeremiah Estrada's, and just hasn't been as, locked down as, he was the majority of the season.
Yeah, he's thrown now 10 more. He made 10 more appearances than he's ever made as a professional. So and that kind of coincides with when his numbers started to. It could be a usage thing. He might just simply be out of gas, which, giving him 3-4 days off, might be the trick. Because as you know, but Donnie, when a pitcher gets tired, his velocity's fine, yada yada. When a pitcher gets tired, they don't lose their velocity. What you throw is what you throw. What they lose is the ability to locate. So, which might be Michael King's issue right now. That is, he's not in game shape. He's not in mid-season shape, in mid-season form, where you've got your stamina and your wind underneath you. Estrada might simply be, at the point where he's so tired that he's not able to put the ball where he wants to put it. Because that's what happens, man. You lose your location when you get tired. So if he can, I don't know, run a few gassers or get his wind back underneath him, I don't know what it's going to take or what he needs. But he's a guy who has now thrown more innings and with more appearances than he ever has as a pro. And I don't care who you are, that's going to impact somebody if they've never done that before. I'm talking about 72 appearances for this guy.
I don't know if it's stamina for Michael King, because he's getting shelled from pitch 1 on Tuesday. But that certainly could be an issue deeper into games. 609 Cam wondering what happened to Brian Hoeing. He's been in El Paso, pitched as recently as September 5th. So
shoulder issue still.
Another guy that we were expecting to be, that kind of bridge type, long relief, and haven't really seen much.
And he was really good last year. He was really good last year. That's another one of those injuries, man. Injuries get. Can you imagine if they had him too? How good that bullpen is and has been, and adding that dude to it is like, man. And David Morgan's hurt. He's having the shoulder fatigue. So he's a guy who came out of nowhere really to be a really good. I mean, Mike Shildt even said he had earned his trust. He's going to be a guy who was going to be part of that late inning, high leverage bullpen type of situation. She's talking about no David Morgan, talking about a tired Jeremiah Estrada, no Jason Adam, no Brian Hoeing, and you're still talking about one of the best bullpens in baseball. So, but no bullpen can. There's not an infinite number of injuries that it can overcome, right? So it might be getting to the point where it's like this one is at the teetering point where it's on the brink of breaking down, because these guys now know there's nobody else to launch on alert 5.
On the bright side, Fernando Tatis Jr., his 5th multi-hit game in his last 8. He's looking frisky there in that first inning, the steal, and then the tagging up on a shallow sac fly to score. Manny Machado, and some power as well. 4 homers this month. Manny Machado, the grand slam, 3 homers in his last 5 so far this month. Jackson Merrill, the power of the goatee, had a string of 3 straight multi-hit games, snapped today with an 0 for 4, but homered in 3 straight games. Been doing a lot of that, a lot of extra base, and they're probably going to have to score some runs. And you feel more confident in their ability to score some runs when those guys are active, multi-hit games, some slug. That's one of those kind of, it changes the calculus a little bit in the Padres' favor. It just needed to show up night to night.
And maybe the wind's going to be blowing out at Wrigley. Who knows? Maybe Steve Bartman will show up. Who knows? You just don't know. Actually, I do know. He's never going to show up in a ballpark again.
No, probably not. That one we feel pretty confident about. Wind, might feel pretty confident about the win. Might be swirling a little bit in Wrigley. I don't know. But that's at least, if we were going to mention something positive on this podcast, that's one, promising trend. We'll see. What I love, and we could spend too much time on this, and maybe it's a bad idea that I bring it up, but
oh God, you're going to set me off here, aren't you, Darnay?
Tatis and Merrill, just a clinical offensive performance on Sunday. Arise had the day off. Shildt had like a glowing 2 to 3 minute soundbite about how those guys can do everything in baseball, and there's very few guys that can do everything in baseball. We're like, man, Tatis, Merrill back to back coming out of the gates. Love that one too. Tuesday rolls around. Luis Ariz in the 2-hole.
Why?
I was like, man, maybe Shildt is preparing us for something. He is just going on about these two, and they deserved it on Tuesday or on Sunday. Maybe he is preparing us for a different looking lineup card. Nope.
It just, if you see something works, go back to it. I don't understand. Or I'll make another football analogy. Like if you're running the ball and they can't stop you and you've run it for 8 yards on 5 consecutive plays, why do you throw? Yeah. Make them prove they can stop what you're doing to them. You know, this is the same thing. Like if that worked, right? Like it's objectively speaking, that worked. Why don't do it again? Why not? Why just do it again? It's we're not splitting atoms here, Shilty. This is, if something works, freaking try it again. What are we doing?
I have no idea.
Because the other one's not working.
No.
You know, I know it's a one game, it's a small sample size, but I got 150 games of the other one. And you know what?
Not enough information. Not enough information, Derek.
Hey, let's try this other one for kicks, just for fun. Why not? Dude, why not? You know, they've hit Luis Ariz in the cleanup hole before. Put him at 5. You know, I mean, come on now.
No, I'm looking something up because Shildt always talks about Ariz's multi-hit games, tops in Major League Baseball, and 3-hit games, multi-hit game, whatever. Maybe second to Trey Turner, or maybe that's in total hits. I don't know, whatever. His last, let's see, multi-hit game, 2 hits, no extra base hits, 2 hits, no extra base hits, 3 hits, no extra base hits, 3 hits, no extra base hits, 3 hits, no extra base hits, 2 hits with a double.
Woo!
2 hits, no extra base hits. So out of the last 8 games where he's had multiple hits, he's had 1 extra base hit.
And I don't want to make it sound like we're, besmirching Luis Ariz. I love Luis Ariz.
He's great.
He's great. Fun dude. He's an awesome guy. He's just one of those guys you just root for because he's just so happy. He's amazing. He's amazing. I love Luis Ariz. He doesn't deserve to be hitting second right now. Right? He needs to be moved down in the order. This is not a personal thing. This is he's not producing. End of discussion. Jackson Merrill is producing. Move his ass up. Right? Am I being overly simplistic here, Darnay?
And it's there's no point in even saying this because it's not like Ariz's on base is particularly high. If you were to split hairs with Jackson Merrill lately, he is striking out as much, if not more, than he is hitting. Before today, 16 strikeouts, 15 hits in the month of September. His strikeout rate's like 29-30%, but he's got a 685 slug, OPS north of 1,000, 5 home runs, 3 doubles, 2 triples. So,
and as you just said, Toddy's getting on base a lot. So put that dude behind the guy who's on base all the time.
Well, and if you were to ask the opposing starting pitcher, and I guess, well, no, they're both hitting from the left side. If you're asking the opposing starting pitcher, who would you rather face, Tatis Ariz or Tatis Merrill? I would guess right now, especially since Merrill's, he shaved the goatee and he heated up, I would say they would probably rather see Tatis and Ariz than Tatis and the threat of what Jackson Merrill can do. Doubles, triples, home runs, every part of the park. Yeah. What he can do once he's on the base paths, all that.
That's a great call. What lineup would your opponent least like to see? Right? I'm pretty sure the opponent would least like to see Tatis, Merrill, Machado, Sheets, O'Hearn,
Right.
Laureano, and then Arise 7 or 8 or 9 than flipping Merrill and Arise. Like it is, the opponents would much rather have Luis Arise get 4 at-bats a game than Jackson Merrill. And that should tell you right then and there, put the other dude in a spot where he gets more at-bats. Baseball is a simple game, darn it.
Very, very simple. Very, very simple. The manager might be overcomplicating it a little bit right now, but maybe.
Yes, he is.
Maybe. White Sox on the road, back home for the last week of the regular season. Brewers, then the D-backs. Buckle up, everybody. Catch you next time.